Yo, what's up guys, your boy Nitrostorm here, welcome back to Wuthering Waves. So I'll keep this video as brief as possible. I'm feeling a bit better now, but we're back here. We're not going to talk about the tier list itself, but more so the power creep. And as you may have seen from the title, I'm talking about why it's a bit on the earlier side for us to determine what kind of power creep Wuthering Waves has, but also at the same time what we could be looking forward to in terms of what Wuthering Waves are potentially doing regarding power creep. So the first thing we'll be talking about is the first part, which is why it's a bit too early. Well, if you take a look here, the game is only on 2.0, so it's pretty early on. We've only had, if we just count right now, we have 1, 2, 3, Zhang Liao 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 new characters so far. And as you can see from all of them, they're all pretty up there, right? Like there hasn't been a single release so far that was deemed to be on the quote unquote lower end of the tier list, right? But what you did notice is that, for example, at least the latest characters are obviously right at the top. Same for the most recent support that we've got. Jinxie, even though she was alongside Changli, because of her performance, she is still at tier 0. And obviously with Jian, he's obviously slowly went down and stuff like that. Same with Yinlin. So the first impression is that it's pretty natural that the newer characters are going to be well, supposedly better, right, than the previously released characters, which is to be expected. And the first instance of a support that we've got did yield pretty strong results in terms of the performance and the potential support that Shorekeeper can give us. So for example, she can automatically crit on her intro skill, assuming you have the maximum stacks, right, during her ultimate. And then her ultimate can give teams 25% crit damage, 12.5% crit rate, at maximum, right? At maximum stacks of the ult and maximum amount of energy regen that you need to have. But one thing to point out at the moment is that when you look at their outro skills, like for the characters for the most part, is that, let's say if you take a look at Changli and Yinlin, right? Actually, well, let's look at this in game. So if you look at Changli's outro skill, the next character will have fusion damage amplified by 20% and liberation damage amplified by 25% for 10 seconds. And then if you take a look at Yinlin's, for her outro skill, incoming resonator has the electro damage amplified by 20% and resonance liberation amplified by 25%. This time it's 14%. So in terms of the outro skill, obviously Yinlin's is better because it's 4 seconds longer. But in terms of the amount of boost, it's exactly the same, right? It's identical, just separated by the difference in element. And one thing here is that it could be seen that depending on the characters, it's possible that it's either just damage skill like this, or if it's going to be buff related, it might stay the same. I believe Zheja has the same buffs as well. If you take a look at I think it's in passive, right? Or no, or is it outro? Oh no, This is the passive. Let's go back to active skill. Oh, there we go. Outro skill. Incoming resonator has their glacial damage amplified by 20% and resonance skill damage amplified by 25% by 14 seconds, sorry, until they are switched out. So as you can see, so far, right, they've been pretty consistent regarding the amount of buffs given to the next character based on the new character releases. And then we'll just do one final check with Carlotta, just to double check. Okay, this one is just damage, so there is that as well. So that's one thing that people are saying, that in terms of power creep, they're probably not gonna alter this, which to be honest, I kind of doubt that they're gonna keep it the same. I think eventually down the line they'll have someone that will have increased amount of effectiveness on their outro skill. It's just for the time being they're just creating a sort of consistent baseline. But you know, potentially it could stay the same, but I wouldn't really count on it. But at least when it comes to the current 2 patches that we have, they are keeping some sort of consistency between the patches, which you could say is a more fair approach regarding power creep. So that's pretty much about it regarding the why we shouldn't really think about it at this early stage. Why is it a bit too early to talk about power creep and how it might stay the same in the future? But in terms of like the performances of the characters, it's pretty obvious that the characters are increasingly getting better, especially the DPS. I said in terms of just damage, right? And just in terms of damage, they're obviously slowly getting stronger and stronger. But the only reason why we haven't really felt that yet is because in terms of Tower of Adversity and the Hazard Tower, they've only recently started making things a tiny bit more difficult, especially when they make one of the 2 stages in the Hazard Tower 3 waves rather than the usual 2 in the past. Actually, speaking of that, I need to check if okay, there's still 3 days I'm gonna have to do my review there. But in any case, the next part is what we can look forward to regarding the quote-unquote power creep. I mean, there is power creep in terms of like the quote-unquote power creep that I'll be talking about in Wuthering Waves and why we should look forward to it potentially. So this next part, apologies for rambling, is regarding the gameplay creep. This is what I feel like will be the case for Wuthering Waves in terms of power creep for the most part, because the gameplay itself is really smooth, it's really good. Every new character so far has been very unique in terms of their kit. But increasingly, as we've noticed, at least just looking at these 3 DPS, right? We'll ignore the rest because their roles aren't as prominent as these 3. As in, these 3 roles are very... actually, you know, we'll add Gion to the mix because at least for main DPS, we can easily tell what their role is. You know, we'll add Zhang Liao to the mix as well. So starting with Gion, right, his gameplay compared to every other character here, every other DPS character, is very easy, is very chill, which adds to the fun factor. But a lot of people didn't really like that, right? Which, you know, is understandable. And then, but if we move on to the next character on the list in order, Jin Si, her gameplay from Gion is like pretty crazy upgrade, right? So Gion does summon dragons, right? And then after the ult, he does his usual hold left click attacks. But then with Jin Si, he can essentially do a combo where you end up releasing 2 big dragon animation attacks, right after each other, which is pretty cool. And the animations are really nice. Transforming stages on her E and doing basic attacks as well, going on midair, and then the animations of that final E and then the ultimate looking similar as well. Very nice fun factor there. So in that case, that is a very noticeable power creep in gameplay fun and maybe mechanics as well, right? And then up next after that, we have Zhang Liao. So you could say we have a trend, but we only have 2 points on the graph right now, so the line might not be as reliable as we think. But for at least between Jian and Zhang Liao as new release featured 5 stars male characters, their gameplay is on the easy side. But Zhang Liao is more so is at least maybe more fun perhaps than Jian, because for Jian you can literally just hold left click after your ult and then you win. And then for Zhang Liao, it's slightly different. Basically the same thing. After you press ult, you spam E, and then you win, I believe. Well, E and spam basic attack. So again, pretty fun gameplay, but maybe similar level as Jian in terms of fun. So not much power creep there. But then comes the next DPS character of Camellia. Her gameplay was insanely unique compared to the rest of the roster because she has 2 different forms, right? A ground form and then the spinny form. Well, both forms have a spinny, but the one where she's floating, or at least hanging on a vine, that is the Beyblade. I call that the Beyblade form. And then involves a lot of new unique gameplay, especially with the big AoEs with the spinning. And don't underestimate that, because that provides a lot of countering or parrying potential without much effort. And the damage it deals is also very nice. And then the kind of gameplay that you do with Camellia, with her forte, and then the enhanced skill, and then the ultimate animation and all of that, again, very fun. And again, another, you could say on either same level as Jinxie or better. It depends on your tastes in this case. So it's not necessarily a power creep, but more so depending on your tastes, it could be a power creep in gameplay. And then last but not least, our latest addition, Carlotta. Again, another change in gameplay, another unique style, this time using guns, our first gun release in terms of new releases. And then her gameplay is mainly focused on the ultimate. So after you press ult, you just spam the ult, shoot, 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 and an extra animation at the end. Again, you could see this as a power creep in gameplay, as in your experience, because of all the cool animations. She can flip over the enemies, as in like in terms of how you use her. A lot of aerial movement, which can potentially be used as a dodge mechanic if enemy does ground-based attacks. And then the ultimate animation, again, pretty fun stuff. You get to shoot, 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 you know what I mean? And again, these 3, all of their gameplay are fun, even if they're from different patches. All of their gameplay has their own unique flair to it, and something that will be appealing to a particular audience. But you can like all 3. That is of course fine. But yeah, I think if Kuro Game continues to flow in this direction regarding how they design their characters, I feel like the power creep will more so be tied into the fun factor and animations, I think, more so than the combat, because we already have a lot of characters here that can potentially stay in future team comps. So for example, Sanhua, her time on field is so small, but her support capabilities are insane, right? And can dish out nice damage at the same time as well. And then we also have Mortefi, but I've only used him with Jian, so I actually don't know what his performance is like outside of Jian team, so I don't know much about that. I think the one thing that we should be probably worrying about, but you know, it's essentially the same thing in basically every other gacha game out there, the supports. Supports have the potential to essentially be not really make or break, but depending on the kind of new content that they release in the future that may require more buffs and stuff like that, that's where supports might start coming in. But I would say it's cool so far. It feels like a balance, right? But again, as I've mentioned at the start, the game is still in its earlier stages, so we can't really say for sure if the power creep will be worse later on, or if they'll add something new which creates or defines a new meta. So not much there, but in terms of how it is currently, the kind of power creep that we are at least observing currently is a gameplay power creep in a way that is fun, not just as in I guess limiting factors. So as in, you don't need this character for a particular thing, but it's more so, you know, this character provides certain kinds of gameplay mechanics, and if you kind of like that stuff, then you know you can get that character. But until we get new content that might decide the future of Wuthering Waves, we can't really decide on how good or bad the power creep is regarding the performance. But at least for gameplay, then it's definitely becoming nicer and nicer, and it's just about what character you want to play and then enjoying that character for the time being. So that's about it for this video. Apologies if I rambled on for too long. It's just sharing my thoughts regarding Wuthering Waves' current state, regarding how each character is like in terms of new releases, and what we could probably expect in the future. I might stand corrected in like a few patches from now, so I'll make an update video at least from there. If you have any questions regarding Wuthering Waves, the power creep stuff, or if you just want to talk to me about anything regarding Wuthering Waves, do let me know down in the comments below. It's been your boy Nitrostorm. I'll see you guys in the next stream or video. Peace.